The top stories tonight in Y News. The Department of Health has located 144 close contacts from the 12 individuals detected with the United Kingdom variant of COVID-19.
The Philippine Red Cross officially launched its saliva RT-PCR testing after completing and passing all requirements.
An agriculture advocacy group warns that the scarcity of pork and chicken supply in Metro Manila may get worse. Several groups are seeking to probe possible corruption in private motor vehicle inspection centers, but the Land Transportation Office denies the allegations.
Oman's labor ministry says it will bar expatriates from certain jobs in the private sector.
And a number of Chinese warplanes flew over Taiwan air defense zone for 2 consecutive days. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, January 25, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The Department of Health has located and tested 144 close contacts of the UK variant cases in Bontoc Mountain Province. Of this number, 34 people tested positive for COVID-19. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Health officials have traced the close contacts of the 12 UK variant cases in Bontoc Mountain Province, found to be carrying the more transmissible COVID-19 variant, first found in the United Kingdom. Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said they have located a total of 144 close contacts of the cases, 34 of which tested positive for COVID-19. 28 samples have been submitted at the Philippine Genome Center. The DOH added they have monitored 3 clusters of infection in Bontoc Mountain Province.
Itong 3 clusters ng infection na nakikita na natin yung pagkakahawa-hawa na nangyari dito sa mga areas na ito. Nakita natin yung mga pinagmulan, pero sabi ko nga hindi pa siya definite because we still need to backtrack at titignan natin baka may iba pa ring lumabas ng bansa at bumalik dito sa lugar na ito.
According to the DOH, 12 of the UK variant cases have been exposed to an individual who arrived in the country from United Kingdom. The DOH considers the individual as an index case, but they still have to investigate further. The individual arrived in the country from United Kingdom last December 13. The case tested negative for COVID-19 and was able to go home in Bontoc in December 14. They had a family holiday party last December 25. The case also attended a ritual gathering last December 26. And on December 29, the case started having symptoms like abdominal pain, one of the symptoms of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the DOH does not consider the case in Bontoc Province as a super spreader event.
Hindi pa natin masasagot sa ngayon, no? Katulad ng sabi namin, kami po ay nagve-verify pa at nag-further investigate.
Meanwhile, 97 close contacts were identified from the lone UK variant case in La Trinidad, Benguet. 4 of the contacts who are household members tested positive for COVID-19. The close contacts of the returning overseas Filipino workers from Lebanon are still being located, as well as the close contacts of the UK variant case detected in Calamba, Laguna. Currently, there are 17 UK variant cases in the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Malacanang defended President Rodrigo Duterte's decision to include the families of soldiers in the list of potential early recipients of COVID-19 vaccines. Rosa Licos will tell us why.
The palace is leaving to the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to operationalize President Duterte's remarks seeking free COVID-19 jabs for uniformed personnel's families. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the priority list for the immunization program of the government remains the same.
Hindi naman po nababago, no? Ang ini-expand lang niya ay kasama yung mga kapamilya ng mga kasundaluhan. And that's out of recognition on the part of the President na talagang importante po ang papel na ginagalawan o ginagampan ng ating mga men in uniform because theirs is the maintenance of peace and order in our society.
In a speech to troops at the Kuta General Chodulfo Bautista headquarters in Jolo over the weekend, President Duterte said he would ask Vaccine SAR Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. to also prioritize families of uniformed personnel in the vaccination against COVID-19.
Umauna kayo. And if the Secretary Galvez would sabihin ko sa kanya, kasali na yung pamilya ninyo. Magpunta yung mag-inject sa mga kampo, tuturukan pati yung mga anak ninyo.
The government's list of early recipients to receive the COVID-19 vaccines includes frontline health workers, senior citizens, indigent population, uniformed personnel, and persons with comorbidities and other vulnerable population groups. Those in the priority list also should not be alarmed because more than 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines are expected to arrive in the country this year. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Philippines has recorded 1,581 new confirmed cases of coronavirus disease today, pushing the nationwide count to 514,996. 13 patients recovered, bringing the total recoveries to 475,422. 50 fatalities were also recorded, taking the death toll to 10,292. According to the Health Department, most of the new confirmed cases came from Quezon City with 89 cases, followed by Cebu City with 88, Cavite with 80. Davao City with 78 and Cebu with 50. Active cases are at 29,282. An agriculture advocacy group warns that the current meat supply crisis in Metro Manila will get worse once a price freeze will be implemented. The Department of Agriculture, meantime, believes that there is no meat shortage. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, together with other government agencies, has recommended to President Duterte the imposition of a price freeze on pork and chicken amid rising retail prices of farm commodities in Metro Manila. But according to the Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura or SINAG, the implementation of price freeze may get the situation worse.
Baka yung mga traders sa Manila, kung hindi sila bili ng baboy at manok, baka maupusan ng Metro Manila ng baboy at laman.
DA estimates that the prices of pork should not go beyond 300 pesos per kilogram, while chicken should only 160 pesos per kilogram. Sinag said that traders might think twice before bringing their supply to Metro Manila.
Siyempre, kung yung presyo ng probinsya nasa 320 to 330 na, no, ang retail price dun sa probinsya, bakit kailangan padalhin sa Manila? Yun ang problema. And alam natin, majority ng stocks natin galing Bisaya, Mindanao.
But Agriculture Secretary William Dar believes there is no meat supply crisis in the country, but there are those who manipulate prices. The DA pledged to closely monitor major public market retailers, traders, and wholesalers for Price Act violations.
Lahat po na entities, mga individuals o mga organisasyon na floating the idea of a food shortage have to substantiate yung claims nila, and otherwise failing to do so renders them suspect of collusion with traders and wholesalers. So huwag tayo mag-sow ng panic among consumers and the public.
On the other hand, the Laban consumer said that the government previously implemented price freeze, but it was not effective and the price instead went up. Violators should be arrested from traders down to the vendors the group added. DA said that the government has allotted around 1 billion pesos for ASF monitoring, including the mass production of test kits, and $500 million for the repopulation program. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Oman announced the nationalization of several jobs, barring expatriates from holding them. Maeve Yandog will give us the details live. Maeve, go ahead.
Diego, Oman's Labor Ministry announced on Sunday that a number of its private sector jobs will be limited to Omanis only. This means that expatriates, including Filipinos, are barred from taking jobs in insurance companies, shops, car dealerships, finance, and commercial and administrative positions, according to the ministry. All accounting jobs within car dealership companies and working as a driver, no matter what the vehicle, will also be reserved for citizens. The announcement also added that the foreigners' work permits in these professions will not be renewed after their expiry date. In addition to this, the Gulf Cooperation Council member states, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, are pursuing to diversify their economies and integrate millions of new graduates into their workforces. They have also introduced a legislation wherein nationals should be given preference over foreigners, both in public and private sectors. The Oman region heavily depends on cheap foreign labor that make up 40% of their 4.5 million strong population, while more than 25 million foreigners, including Filipinos, make up majority of the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait's populations. Diego?
Thank you, Maeve Yandog, reporting live from Australia. Local prices of petroleum products will go down this week, oil firms announced. In separate advisories, Pilipinas Shell Petroleum Corporation, NC Oil Philippines Inc. said they will slash prices of gasoline by 15 centavos a liter, kerosene by 10 centavos, and diesel by 10 centavos. Clean Fuel and Petrogas also said they will implement the same price adjustments except for kerosene, which they do not carry. The price rollback will take effect on Tuesday, January 26. Other oil firms have yet to announce similar price changes for this week. The price adjustment comes after 3 weeks of consecutive hikes.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Philippine Red Cross officially launched its saliva RT-PCR testing today after completing and passing all of the requirements. The Department of Health, on the other hand, prohibits other laboratories to conduct saliva testing. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why live. Yes, Asher, good evening.
Well, good evening. The Philippine Red Cross has significantly increased its COVID-19 testing capacity after the Department of Health approved its utilization of saliva specimen as alternative to swabbing for reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR test. The organization used to have only about 9,000 testing capacity per day nationwide. But as it conducts today its pilot implementation of saliva test, initially with their 3 laboratories in Metro Manila, it already yields about 8,000 tests per day. 11 more PRC laboratories located in other regions are expected to test more patients per day. These laboratories are scheduled to start utilizing the saliva test by next month as more personnel need to be trained for its process. Here's the voice of Senator Gordon as he speaks in PRC's press conference today.
You imagine we're only able to test 9,000 tests regularly. 9,000 to 10,000. So kung halimbawa magpa-test lahat yan, you're capable of 48,000 tests a day. There should be no problem.
But the DOH reiterates that other laboratories are not allowed to conduct saliva testing. According to Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, the saliva test should still be further tested by the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM. Let's give way to Yusek Vergere's explanation about the matter.
we said in the approval, nakalagay doon na among Philippine Red Cross laboratories lang muna gagawin ito. So for the other laboratories, aantayin muna natin yung test or validation study na ginawa ng RITM before we can fully implement saliva as alternative specimen.
Individuals looking to avail of the saliva test with the Philippine Red Cross may book online through the link book.redcross1158.com. They should not eat, drink, gargle, smoke, or vape 30 minutes before the test. A saliva test costs 2,000 pesos, which is cheaper compared to the RT-PCR swab test priced at 3,800 pesos. Will?
Yes, thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr., reporting live. In other news, pediatric organizations in the country opposes the government's policy to allow children to go out in areas under a modified general community quarantine. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The health department over the weekend said they will recommend to delay the implementation of easing age restriction in modified general community quarantine areas by February. But the DOH also says the interagency task force still has to decide on the matter, considering the factor that UK variant is now spreading in some areas in the country.
Pag-uusapan lahat po ito sa IATF kung meron man pong bagong pwedeng ihain para magkaroon ng diskusyon dito.
The DOH also sees no reason yet to implement another lockdown in the country amid the threat of new coronavirus variants. According to DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, the existence of UK variant in different areas is not a reason that UK variant is already widespread in the country.
Binabase natin sa healthcare utilization rate at sa numero ng kaso. So sa ngayon po, pag tinignan natin, hindi pa naman nagkakaroon ng sinyales para magkaroon ng lockdown. Mukhang nagmo-work naman po sa atin yung granular lockdowns, no? Yung mga localized lockdowns na sinasagawa natin para naman po hindi masyadong magkaroon ng burden ng ating ekonomiya. So we will continue to implement this until that time when the parameters would tell us and dictate that we should have another form of strict restrictions.
In a statement, the Philippine Pediatric Society and Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines said that children aged 10 above and elderly aged 65 above should stay at home. This is because children have the possibility to become super spreaders. According to the DOH, whatever the government's decision will be have been thoroughly studied before its implementation.
Kailangan lagi tayong may caution when we talk about children. So we are trying to encourage local governments and of course our public na kailangan talaga po yung compliance to minimum public health standards. And if this is just really for the MGCQ areas, but for the higher risk classification naman po, pag-uusapan pa ng local chief executives if appropriate sa kanilang area or not.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Land Transportation Office, or LTO, assures that there is no corruption in private motor vehicle inspection centers. This was after being accused of imposing inspection fees that did not undergo public consultation. Joanne Nano tells us why.
Transport officials have been urged to probe possible corruption in private motor vehicle inspection centers. The Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, or VACC, is demanding for an investigation and argues that since there is no public consultation held prior to the implementation of PMVIC. Meanwhile, environmental group Clean Air Movement Philippines Incorporated, or CAMPI, are also complaining over the suspension imposed in some private emission testing centers, requiring them to temporarily shut down their operations despite of baseless and alleged violations according to the group.
Simula po nung nangyari ito, ang mga private emission testing centers sunod-sunod ng napapasarhan, nakakasuhan ng violations na wala namang walang sapat na basihan. Tapos yung mga violations po na pinataw sa mga private emission testing centers were not violations nung LTO pa ang in charge sa mga private emission testing centers. Nagtataka kami nung nilipat na sa DOTR, violations na.
Unang-una, yung possible corruption dito, unang-una, walang public consultation, walang transparency, at tila ata may monopoly na ang binigay, yung franchise binigay sa private individuals and groups. So, ang sabi nga namin, pag walang konsultasyon, may korupsyon.
The groups were also complaining over defective results of testing conducted by the PMVIC, which according to them is burdening the vehicle owners for additional cost, as they have to undergo retesting of their vehicle before they could register to the LTO. However, the LTO insists that these accusations were unfounded. LTO Chief Assistant Secretary Galvante explains that due to limited funds, the Department of Transportation has partnered with the private sectors for the establishment of private motor vehicle inspection centers, as most of their LTO MVIS were obsolete and needs rehabilitation. Galvante added that PMVIC should not be compared with private emission testing centers, as the latter has a limited capacity to test vehicles' roadworthiness.
Kasi yung emission check, kasama na yan sa buong system ng PMVIC. Samantalang sa PETC, wala silang kakayahan. Dahil ang makina nila, ang instrumento nila, is pag-check lang ng emission. Wala doon sa pag-check ng preno, ng ilaw, ng steering, so forth and so on. Kaya hindi pwedeng equivalent yon.
ASEC Galvante reiterates that the LTO is gaining nothing from the PMVIC as they have no control over it, contrary to the accusations.
Unang-una, walang pakialam yung LTO kung anong gagawin nung may guidelines yan. Hindi na pwedeng maaaring may korupsyon noong nagkakaroon ng nosyo, na release. Pero ngayon, ang hinahanap dito, yung resulta ng inspection na electronically transmitted. Kumbaga, hindi matatamper ng kung sino man ang gusto mag-tamper nun. At saka hindi na pwede rito yung nanampiran.
Joanna Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police commemorates the heroism of the 44 Police Special Action Force or SAF commandos who died in a botched police operation in Mamasapano, Maguindanao 6 years ago. Leia Ilagan reports.
PNP Chief Police General De Bolsinas and NCRPO Director Police Major General Vicente Danao Jr. lead the wreath-laying ceremony in honor of SAF 44 in Camp Bagong Diwa. General Sinas said the PNP leadership ensures that families of the killed SAF commandos continue to receive the aid, such as scholarships given to the national government.
Nung nag-umpisa tayo, after nung nangyari sa kanila, tinulungan po sila, anisustahan, tapos yung scholarship, yung mga pabahay ay naibigay na po. Ngayon po, ang ginagawa po ng PNP headquarters ay minomonitor po na continue nilang natatanggap yung mga benepisyo at hindi na puputol.
Despite receiving benefits, Rosel Nasino, widow of SAF Commando, Nikki Nasino Jr. is hoping that the probe on the case will be opened again.
Siguro po sana po mabigyan sila ng hustisya. Yun po yung main concern po namin na bilang pamilya po ng SAF 44. Siguro po managot na lang po yung mga dapat managot kasi malaki rin po kasi yung na napabayaan sila eh.
In January 2015, the SAF members were sent to Mamasapano to neutralize terrorist Zulkifli Binhir, alias Marwan, and Basit Usman. Despite neutralizing Marwan, the troops were ambushed by joint forces of Moro Islamic Liberation Front, Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, and other armed group in the area. In January 21, 2020, the Sandigan Bayan acquitted former PNP Chief Alan Purisima and ex-PNP SAF Director Getulio Napeñas of graft and usurpation charges over the botched operation due to lack of evidence. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The majority of foreigners arrested for allegedly violating the Philippines' immigration laws last year are Chinese nationals. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Bureau of Immigration or BI reported that its intelligence operatives arrested a total of 510 foreigners last year for violating Philippine immigration laws. Immigration Commissioner Jaime Morente said the foreigners were arrested in various enforcement operations. 332 of those arrested are Chinese nationals caught in the act of engaging in illegal online gaming and cybercrime activities. Citing coronavirus restrictions, Commissioner Morente said last year's tally was significantly lower compared to the over 2,000 undocumented foreigners caught in 2019. BI Intelligence Chief Fortunato Manahan Jr. reported 32 Chinese nationals in Tarlac last December for illegally working in the country and involvement in cybercrimes. There are also 14 Indian nationals arrested for allegedly overstaying and being improperly documented. Meanwhile, 14 South Korean and 2 Vietnamese were caught without permits and engaging in unauthorized business activities. The Immigration Bureau has also assisted AFP and PNP to the arrest of suspected foreign terrorists in Mindanao, including Elia Sisi, wife of an Indonesian suicide bomber in Holo Sulu last October 2020. BI had also tightened the screening of arriving and departing foreigners as part of its campaign against illegal recruitment. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
A senator has expressed concern that China's alleged vaccine diplomacy will be used against the Philippines to advance its interest in the disputed waters in the West Philippine Sea. However, a security expert believes the government will not sacrifice the country's position over vaccine. Arlene Delgado will tell us why.
Senator Risa Hontiveros is calling on the government to ensure that the Philippines will not be stabbed on the back by China on the West Philippine Sea issue through its alleged vaccine diplomacy. This comes after China passed its Coast Guard law, which authorizes its Coast Guard to fire on foreign vessels and demolish structures built by other countries on Chinese-claimed reefs, which the senator describes as a negative development. According to the senator, there should be no special relationship between the Philippines and any country, especially with China, noting that the government should follow an independent foreign policy. She also called on the Defense Department to have a strategy to be prepared when worse comes to worst.
Patuloy kailangang bantayan na hindi kaliwaan yung vaccine procurement at yung ating national interests sa West Philippine Sea. Mahirap na kung sasabihin tayo ay BFFs, may special relationship, baka mamaya meron na namang palusutin hindi dapat in terms of vaccines for national interest or vaccines for West Philippine Sea territory.
In the third Senate Committee of the Whole hearing last week, Vaccine Czar Carlito Galvez said differences in the West Philippine Sea issue should be set aside amid the pandemic, a response that Hontiveros finds surprising. Galvez then clarified that they will ensure that the country's stake in the disputed waters will not be compromised. But for security analyst Romel Banlawi, there was no strong basis to connect the vaccine procurement to the West Philippine Sea issue.
Kakaunawa ko ng posisyon natin at ready rin ako sa mga bilateral engagement natin with China, walang intention on the part of the Philippine government to sacrifice our position in the West Philippine Sea just to get concessions from China. Kaya vaccine pa to, or investments to, or foreign aid to. It is against our national interest. So I don't think gagawin ng gobyerno natin yan.
However, Banlawi says the Philippines should now clarify the scope and intentions of the law with China to avoid further misunderstanding and overreaction to the issue. He adds that this causes security anxiety among China's neighboring countries.
It's very important that we ask clarification from China through constant dialogues and communications with China in order to avoid further misunderstanding on the issue. Because misunderstanding is always the cause of many conflicts all over the world. Misunderstanding ang cause ng World War I, misunderstanding ang nag-cause ng World War II.
The Defense Department has yet to comment on the matter. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, has apologized for the inconsistencies in its list of students who allegedly joined the New People's Army, or NPA. In a Facebook post, the AFP apologized to the individuals affected by the list and announced that an investigation as to how the list got published is underway. The statement also said the AFP will review its process and procedures to ensure similar incidents will not occur in the future. The list was published on the AFP's official Facebook page, which has already been taken down. The AFP also said individuals who are found responsible for posting the list will be held accountable. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana described the AFP unit's mistake as an unpardonable gaffe. Meanwhile, University of the Philippines, or UP Diliman, Chancellor Fidel Namenzo expressed his concern over the AFP's baseless accusations and red tagging, which includes UP students and alumni.
And for the news abroad, here's Elsie Marcos reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
Good evening, William. A number of Chinese warplanes flew over Taiwan air defense zone for 2 consecutive days, prompting island's air force to deploy missiles. Amiel Pascual will give us the details live. Yes, Amiel.
Good evening, LC. Beijing sent a total of 15 warplanes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone for the second day, Taiwan military reported on Sunday. This is the largest intrusion of Chinese warplanes over the island nation this year, Taiwan Ministry of Defense said. Saturday's operation involved 8 bomber planes and 4 jets that intruded the island. Taiwan military in response warned the Chinese fighter jets away and deployed missiles to monitor the intrusion. Political analysts believe that this is China's move to test the administration of the new U.S. President Joe Biden. Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of State expressed its concern about China's ongoing intimidation on the island state. In a statement, the department urged Beijing to stop its military, diplomatic, and economic pressure and suggested to engage in a meaningful dialogue with Taiwan. China claims self-ruled Taiwan as its own territory. China's military has been regularly conducting flights over the waters of southern Taiwan, vowing to safeguard its sovereignty. And that's the latest from Taiwan. Elsie?
Thank you, Amiel, reporting live from Taiwan. At least 5,000 people in the northern city of Taoyuan will have to quarantine at home for 14 days effective immediately. Early Briones will tell us why.
Patients, carers, and medical staff at a hospital in the northern city of Taoyuan will have to quarantine at home for 14 days. Health Minister Chen Shih-chung told reporters that they will expand the number of people who have to quarantine who may have had contact with the infected patients from the hospital cluster. He put the number at about 5,000 people compared to around 1,300 who are currently in quarantine. The order covers anyone who entered the hospital between January 6 and January 19. Everyone affected will have to continue monitoring their health for a further 7 days and take a COVID test after leaving quarantine. Taiwan has a well-honed system to track those who have been in contact with confirmed cases and an electronic monitoring network to ensure those in quarantine remain at home.
The Taiwan has recorded just 889 cases and 7 deaths in total since the beginning of the pandemic.
95 active cases are also being treated in hospital. Early Briones, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Israel expands its world-leading vaccination campaign to teens. Marvy Dolphin will give us the details live. Yes, Marvy?
Offering COVID-19 shots to teenagers on Saturday as it accelerated its vaccination drive, with a quarter of the population now inoculated. Israel's health ministry said on Friday that more than 2.5 million of its 9 million population have received their first dose since its rollout of vaccinations in December 20 last year, beginning with health professionals, the elderly, sick, and high-risk groups, then continuously lowering the minimum age of those entitled to the jab. Almost 1 million citizens has had their second dose, with Israel largely using Pfizer's vaccine. According to an Israel's Education Ministry spokeswoman, the inclusion of 16 to 18-year-olds in Israel's vaccination drive, subject to parental approval, is aimed at enabling the orderly holding of exams, although it is too early to say whether schools will reopen next month. The matriculation exams is crucial in deciding which university Israel students can enter into, and late high school results can also affect military placements, which is a compulsory service for young Israelis. The expansion of the campaign to include teens came days after Israel extended its third national lockdown till the end of the month due to a surge in coronavirus infections. Recent collected data from Johns Hopkins University shows Israel recording more than 596,000 cases and 4,392 deaths. Late Sunday, Israel's health ministry identified cases of a COVID-19 variant originating in Los Angeles, while variants from Britain and South Africa have also been found. In an effort to halt the spread of new virus variants, the government announced on Sunday that it would ban passenger flights in and out of the country from tonight, meaning its only international airport will be closed for the rest of January. Elsie?
Thank you, Marvy Delphine, for that live report. Rescuers in China have freed 11 gold miners who were trapped hundreds of meters underground for 2 weeks. TV footage showed the first miner, who was blindfolded to protect his eyes from the light, being lifted out as emergency workers cheered. The fate of 10 other miners remains unknown as rescue operations continue to try to locate them. The entrance tunnel to the Hushan gold mine in Shandong province collapsed after an explosion on 10 January. A total of 22 miners were trapped in the blast, the cause of which is unknown. At least one died, and it's still not known if the remaining workers are alive underground. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, January 25, 2021. I am Horilyn Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.